Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi zidni ilma, Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Allahumma la sahla illa ma ja'altu sahlan wa anta taj'alul huzna idha shi'ta sahlan. Before we start the class, we ask Allah Ta'ala that may Allah Ta'ala make the task easier for us. We will be going over coordinate geometry, which is IGCSE math, the topic of IGCSE math. We will be going over the concepts that we will be learning in coordinate geometry. First of all, we will learn how to find out gradient. Okay. Secondly, we will learn how to make an equation. Okay. Thirdly, we will learn about perpendicular lines. And as we will start questions, we will go over some other things as well. So first of all, you are given coordinates. Coordinates क्या होते हैं? Points होते हैं on the x-axis and the y-axis. Let's say you have a point 12,4 and then you have, let's say, 4,16. ठीक है? Whenever you have these two coordinates, you label them down: x1, y1, x2, y2. The first coordinate is x1, the second coordinate is x2. Acha, gradient. First of all, we need to find the gradient. In some questions, you will be asked to find the gradient. In some questions, if you're asked to find the equation of the line, then again you need the gradient. So gradient निकालने का तरीका होता है, we write gradient as m. The formula is y2 minus y1 upon x2 minus x1. Instead of y2, I will just write 16. Instead of y1, I will just write 4. In place of x2, I will write 4, and in place of x1, I will write 2. So ये हो गया 16 minus 4 is 12, 4 minus 2 is 2, and 12 divided by 2 is 6. So that's how we get our gradient. Any confusion so far?
No, sir. Just let me copy it down. So this part is regarding the gradient, correct, sir?
Exactly. This part is regarding the gradient. अब हम आते हैं regarding the equation. ठीक है? So the thing is that either you will be given questions or something like that, some points. So let's say let's continue with this question. You had 2 points. ठीक है? Now in the second part, you have to make an equation. Now the general equation is y is equals to mx plus c. C basically refers to the y-intercept. For example, if I make a graph and the line is like this, so this point of intersection, let's say if this is 5, so the value of c would also be 5. So this is C is basically y-intercept. Acha, moving on with our question. You already have the gradient. Now you need to find out C. In order to make an equation, you need to have gradient and y-intercept, which is C.
One second, sir.
Yes.
Sorry to cut you off, but the point we just marked on the graph, that was
y-intercept.
C.
Yeah, C, which is the y-intercept.
Okay.
Y-intercept because it intersects on the y-axis. The line intersects on the y-axis at this point. That's why it's the y-intercept. Moving on, you already have the gradient, okay, which is 6. Now, in order to make an equation, you can either use 2, 4 or 4, 6. Which points or coordinates do you want to use?
4,16.
Alright, 4, 16. No matter which points coordinates you use, you will always get the same answer. So y is equals to mx plus c. Y, instead of y, now you will write down the value of y. What's the value of y? This is x.
16.
Exactly, 16. Is equals to, the gradient is how much? The gradient is 6. What is x? X is 4 plus c. So 16 is equals to 6 4, that is basically 24 plus c. You will deduct 24 from both of the sides, so 16 minus 24 is equals to c. C is equals to minus 8. So your equation is y is equals to 6x, and in place of c you will now write down minus 8. That's how you find an equation.
Okay, just a second.
Now moving on to the third part, which is basically perpendicular. You can be asked to make the equation of the perpendicular line. You can be asked to find the gradient of the perpendicular line. So basically, let's say this line 6x minus 8, right? This line is like this on a graph. This line is like this. Okay, 6x minus 8. Now when I say perpendicular line basically means that another line intersects it like this. Intersects it like this. Okay. Now how can we find the equation of this line, or how can we find the gradient of this line? First of all, let's say we have to find the gradient of this line. What is the gradient of the current line? It's 6. Do you agree?
Yeah.
In order to find the gradient of the perpendicular line, the formula is m1 multiplied by m2 is equals to minus 1. So m1 is basically the gradient of the perpendicular line, m2 is 6, and all of this is equals to minus 1. So m1 is equals to minus 1 upon 6. So basically the gradient of the perpendicular line is minus 1 upon 6.
Just
Now,
1 second.
yes.
What exactly is M1?
M1 basically, M1 refers to gradient of line 1, M2 refers to gradient of line 2. Alright, so line 1 is the perpendicular line, and line 2 is basically this equation, this line.
Alright, so the perpendicular...
the gradient of the perpendicular line.
The perpendicular line is the line colored in blue?
Exactly. We already know the gradient of the line colored in red. It should be more steep, but care doesn't matter. So the gradient of the line was 6, and we wanted to find the gradient of the perpendicular line. We applied this formula, so we got the gradient of the perpendicular line, which is minus 1 upon 6. Any confusion so far?
No.
Alright. Acha, moving on to the second part. Equation of perpendicular line. Equation of perpendicular line. Let's say the question tells us, let me make space first. Let's say the question tells us that the perpendicular line intersects, let's call this line Z. Okay, let's call this line Z. Let's say the question says the perpendicular line intersects line Z at, let's say, which point should I choose? Let's say 2, minus 4. Okay. Now the question is saying find the equation of the perpendicular line. How do we find the equation of any line? We say y is equals to mx plus c. We already know the gradient of the perpendicular line, so we will just plug in these points which has been provided by the question. Instead of y, we will place minus 4 is equals to, gradient is minus 1 upon 6, and the value of x is 2 plus c. So this becomes 2 1s are 2, 2 3s are. So this becomes minus 4 is equals to minus 1 upon 3 plus c. We will add minus 1 upon 3 to both sides of the equation. So this will become c is equals to minus 4 plus 1 upon 3. Plus 1 upon 3. So basically the answer that we get is minus 11 upon 3. So c is equals to minus 11 upon 3. So the equation of the perpendicular line, I'm writing it over here. The equation of the perpendicular line is y is equals to minus 1 upon 6x, and instead of c we will write the value of c, which is minus 11 upon 3. So basically we learned 4 things over here. The 4 things are finding the gradient, making the equation, finding the gradient of the perpendicular line, making the equation of the perpendicular line. Any confusions?
No, sir.
Right.
Let me just copy.